Okay. I need /x/opinions on how fucked I am. I am typing this out as I go, so bear with me. Never green texted before, but I will try. First, some background. 28-year-old from Texas. I grew up in a town but always liked simpler life. I'm currently living at my grandmother's house. She left it to my dad before she passed. Going is a little tough cause I mostly raise the animals she left behind and there isn't much to money to be made by it, but I wasn't intending on staying for more than trace a year. It's a log cabin with 3 enclosures around it, chickens, pigs and some goats, which I don't bother with much, cause meh, goats. Kinda far from anything. There's a town about 20 minutes by car I'm estimating and some neighbors a couple of miles down the road, but I'm surrounded by forest. Cabin is in a fairly large clearing, but the road out of here has forest on either side. Anyway, 3.5 months into my stay, gotten the hang of fucking around with the animals. Mostly gather eggs, sold some of the pigs and decided recently to try and butcher one of them. It's pretty quiet out here. I have a gun, but truth is I rarely care to even use it, let alone carry it with me. Day comes that I want me some fresh pork. Take the pig out of the pen and tie it to a pole not far from the house. Shoot it cause I thought it would be easier. Nope.jpg. Bitch runs around screaming for a good 2 minutes before collapsing. Saw the hole right between the eyes. Fuck me though. P.S. Please be patient, I've never written a story before and I'm writing as I go. So the pig finally kicks it. I've butchered with my uncle before and I get through it pretty efficiently. Only problem was, I'm a dumbass when not supervised. So I put all the entrails etc. into a bucket, and guess what? Yeah, I just fucking forgot it outside. Oh, and forgot to mention, after the pig shut the fuck up, everything else seemed to shut up too. Even the chickens. Now I brushed it off as them witnessing a brutal crime, and didn't pay any attention. I take the meat to the old butcher's block, my grandfather's, and cut it up as best I can. Throw away whatever I don't need, store some of it and cook the best parts the same day. Stuck around for the rest of the day on the computer mostly looking at photos, it's a hobby of mine. Around sundown I went upstairs to where the bedroom is and chilled with the window open looking at the sky. I was getting pretty intrigued by some sounds coming from the woods, thought that if I was lucky, maybe I would get to see a wolf tonight. Man, wolves howl strange these days. Never actually been such an outdoor kinda guy, so I'm not too familiar with the forest creatures. Window overlooks what is the back of the property, but if I stick my head out I can see most of the left side and part of the right too. The clearing is also larger at the back. I keep an eye out for wolves, hoping to see them in all their majesty. By now it's dark and I finally see some movement by the tree line. That's a funny looking wolf.jpg. Squatches. I'm clearly seeing something standing up as it walks out of the damn trees, maybe 8 feet tall. Shitting myself, I never believed in these things. As it makes its way into the clearing I kind of flinch and make a noise as I see one of its legs, bent backwards. It heard me. What little curiosity was keeping my fear in check vanished as I realized 2 things. 1. Both the legs are bent backwards, not just one. 2. It heard me from maybe 300 ft away. What seemed like an eternity passed and it fucking bent over and started running towards the side of the cabin. Technically towards where I killed the pig, which I didn't realize at the time. As it's running I catch light hitting it from the side and I notice a snout, not too large, and ears pointing up. Feel bamboozled as I wanted to see a real wolf, not God's curse to mankind. I'm freaking out at this point. I close the window, grab my nugget, sue me, and put a dresser against the door. I may have mentioned that I'm on the 2nd floor but I wasn't thinking clearly. Meanwhile the pigs start raising hell after a while and I am wondering if it's going to come for me. Hear a kind of a crash. More like a huge smack sound, and footsteps. Real heavy sounding, like it's running. Look outside without going too close to the window. Black werewolf running away with a fucking pig under his arm. Thing seemed shredded at the back end of it. Fucking heavy footsteps. It wasn't even 10 I don't think, and I had to spend the rest of the night on the bed with a rifle in my hands just to feel like it wasn't in the room with me. Finally morning comes, managed to make my way out of the room and downstairs. Thank heavens no signs of trying to get in, but I think I would have heard it if it had. Check around as best I can through the windows to see if anything is near the house. All I see is the chicken pen, and the pig pen. The goats were too far to the side to see from the front. Blood everywhere, parts of pig all around the place, chickens gone. I can only assume at this point that the goats suffered the same fate. Muster all my courage, and run to the Jeep, fucking book it out of there, and go to town. Retardo.jpg. I have a fucking phone and I didn't call anyone. And I left it in the house. Now anyone who has been terrified like I was, will know that under such circumstances you do this whacked out shit. And to be fair, the phone wasn't charged or in the room when I saw what I later researched and called a Dogman. Get to town, have no phone, parents live, 3 towns away from here, and don't know the number by heart. Learn your home numbers, don't be lazy like me. Basically stuck in town. Make my way to a grocery store cause I'm friends with the guy who stacks the fucking shelves there. He's a few years younger but we had enough in common. Go in, see him and start walking up, he turns and sees me, his eyes go wide. Anon, you're so white, are you feeling okay? Long story short, I tell him everything, and he says I can stick around with him for a while. Kick a can around outside until he gets off work. I follow him to his place. He lives with his parents but they are really sweet people. They put me up without a second thought. Hands me his laptop, and tells me to look it up. He says, type Dogman. Sure thing. I get a bunch of results, hear testimonies and stuff. That is exactly what I saw, and apparently they aren't very friendly doggies. Start to freak out again. Bro. Sees this and tells me to just chill. He puts on music and brings up some pizza rolls before I asked him for more details. I asked him how he knew about these things and he said he believes in squatches. Says he heard them as a kid once. Looks up squatch calls. Shit comes on at 1,000,000 decibels on his bass as fuck sound system. Freaks us both out. Lightbulb.jpg. This is where I start fucking up, guys. I think I'm gonna go all manly. And get revenge. If you've looked up Dogman, you know where this is going. Internet says that they hate loud noises like air horns. Also says they tend to hunt dogs and cats. Ask dude if he can lend me money, he agrees. Go out, buy cheapest loud sound system I can find. Stick around for a couple of days, downloading sound files and putting them on a flash drive. Loud shit and some animal sounds. Thinking I'm a genius, I head back to the house with my plan in mind. Get in, doors and windows seem untouched so I feel a little better. All is good. Time to set it up. Take the sound system outside and put it about 30 feet from the back of the cabin, near the window. Throw extensions into the bedroom through the window and go back inside. Barricade the ground floor as best I can. Basically shove furniture around. Gather all my things into the bedroom, go up and barricade the door. Connect my laptop, and wait. It was still early in the day when I was done and I felt very uneasy waiting. Almost backed out realizing I was being dumb, but I didn't dare. When the sun finally started to set, I decided it was time to put my plan in action. Find cat noises, meowing, etc. Play loud for about 20 minutes on and off. Make sure I get enough time in between to listen to any possible sounds. Aw shit .jpg. It fucking worked. Fucker comes out of the woods. A bit further to the side and on all fours this time. I was getting the chills, but I wanted to fuck with this thing. I had pulled the curtain and the windows as much as I could without severing the extension cable. The sun was down by now but the moon was bright in the sky. I could see it better this time. Hadn't realized what kind of a beast it was. I mean, this thing was ripped. Truly unholy. Shaking, I put the meowing on with a lower volume. It pinpointed the sound instantly and started walking towards it. Volume full and wait. Pick MV Battle Cry. It was a hard choice between Cheeky Breeky and Eddie Wally, but I thought Eddie Wally was better. Wait. As it inches closer, it kinda took its time before standing up again and actually walking. Once it's about within 5 feet, I unleash Holy Glory. Fucking wow, you goddamn dog bastard. Wave. What happened next left me in too much shock to laugh. The thing jumped in pure fucking terror, easily 5 feet into the air and landed on its backside, not that it stayed down long. Feel the thud as it hits the ground before scrambling to its feet, all four and fucking running like a wet cat. While I found it funny, the sound it made as it hit the ground was scary. That thing must weigh a ton. Shit also made some fearful growling when it ran away. My guess, I pissed it off more than anything. I didn't dare sleep, and a few hours later I found out that it was for good reason. 2 of them came out the second time. Both close in size, but maybe the second one was smaller. It also could have been slightly different in color, seemed brown maybe. Anyway, I prepared the sounds again, but put a dog barking directly on loud volume. They stopped before bum rushing it. I mean, they charged this thing. Max the volume while tactically shitting myself. Find one of my designated punishment sounds and launch click dat shit. Oh merciful God of the Slavs. May you have Cheeky Breeky on their souls. Cheeky Breeky Afghanki. Cap limit hits at the best parts. We'll try to conclude. I was terrified, actually shaking. It was enough to stop them from taking it out, and they even kinda shielded their ears from it. I went into fight or flight. Hit the first song that I could find on the screen to keep them distracted before fucking grabbing my rifle and kicking the window open and shouting cheeky breeky at them again. They managed to pinpoint me despite the sound from the music, but I pulled the trigger just from the shock of my shit leaving my ass. Small side note, their gaze is that of the devils. I hit the brownish one in the chest and it flinched a little. I was determined to empty the whole clip into the bastards, so I just kept going. I hit it again in the chest and it tried to give me a quick hateful glare before running the other way on two legs. The other one glared at me too but started to turn to follow the other. I on the other hand was not done, I shot at that one too. I am not certain but it looked like I hit it in the shoulder, but if I did it didn't show any sign of it. I fired one last round but couldn't tell if I hit anything. I felt like I had won a battle but I was extremely shook up. I think I made the right decision, when I got my stuff in a hurry and threw the bookcase from the door, ran downstairs, broke a window to get out, because asshole me blocked the door, got into my Jeep and started to leave. The reason I believe this, is because as I got out of the driveway onto the road, you guessed it, there was one out there, going back towards the house. Pretty much that's the story. I went to my friend's house directly, and his parents were shocked at the state of me. I left in the morning and made my way back home. I had barely told my friend anything, and it took me at least a week to tell my parents what happened. They didn't believe anything I said other than me fucking up my grandmother's house. I managed to convince them not to try and fix the house up. Something very odd and shocking happened to me. I don't get on this board a lot. I usually lurk on /an//k//out//his/ and /rk9/, but I can't post this on any of those. To summarize, I saw something spectacular that has terrified me and my pals since it happened. The memory has been carved into my brain for the most part, so everything should be accurate. Though I might be paraphrasing our dialogue a little bit. Not enough to change any of what actually happened though. This occurred about a month ago, so I guess I'll just get right into it. Be me. 25-year-old Army vet living in the boonies of wooded South Central Kentucky. Enough forests and woods to spend a whole life walking through, or be turning 26 soon, so in a good mood. Decide to go on a camping trip with some friends on a spur-of-the-moment decision. Call my guys together, 3 other dudes, we'll call them Samuel, Dylan and Christo. We had a place that we always go camping to, probably not after this. For reference, it's definitely in the Barron County jurisdiction. Get supplies ready. 4 coolers, 2 small tents, a lot of beer and snacks, and 3 blunts. Christo gets in his truck, picks up the other guys and comes to my place to pick up me and the supplies. Hell yeah. .png. Put supplies in back with Dylan and sit in the truck. In between Christo making a joke or doing something stupid, we're always quiet, while focusing on something. So truck rides, setting up camp or just working in general, always has an awkward silence for us. We're some loud fuckers too. Drive out to the middle of nowhere and walk up the very long, crude trail us and some other guys made way back when we were seniors in high school. Finally arrive at our spot after probably an hour of walking. After a while, our tents are up and everything else is ready. Christo grabs the 4 coolers, and we all sit on some logs around what will be our firewood when night comes. It's only 4:30 p.m. right now. Grab some beers and start cracking around. Just general fuckery. Samuel says, "So Anon, what are you gonna do for your big 26th? Before I get the chance to say anything, Christo pops off. Ask Veronica, my GF, she's the one who's deciding. Really funny, oh my sides.jpg. For some reason my friends call me pussy whipped, and it's a running joke with them. Key my sarcastic laughing and the rest of them cracking up. Something you should know about Christo. He's a Mexican but a full-blown American-loving Trump-supporting rebel boy. He's a complete Chad, and though he's the biggest party animal you've ever seen, he's a very hard worker. He's 250 pounds and well over 6 feet of pure muscle and jackassery. Christo's almost never serious, but when he is, don't take it lightly. Back to it. Shut up and give me another beer. He obliges. Now hold on a minute, Samuel goes as he pulls out one of the big beautiful blunts. Don't drink anymore, why don't we spark up? I thought we were saving those for tonight, I reply. Hell, we'd still have 2 left, he says. I look to Christo and Dylan and they don't have an issue with it. Alright, I guess. I put my beer down and Samuel lights it up. Samuel is a little guy. No more than 5'4". And 130 pounds. But he's a hell of a heavyweight. Me and Christo hardly ever smoke and this would be Dylan's first time. Samuel lights it up, and of course hits it first, and second, and third. After like 4 time, Christo takes it from him and hands it to Dylan. Dylan's a bit hesitant. In between Samuel's laughing, he says, "Come on Dylan, don't be pussy, hit it. Your first time's the best." "Dylan, you don't have to hit it if you don't want to," Christo says. "Nah, I got this." Dylan hits it, then the fucker hits him. Dylan's an average height guy but around 300 pounds and very quiet in public, but a complete jokester in private. Falls over from laughing so hard. Me and Christo keck about it. Samuel's red-faced on the fucking ground. Dylan, the poor bastard, gets up and hits it again. Immediately on the floor. Again. Christo's in tears now and I'm clenching my sides. I think Samuel's are in orbit. Eventual hands it off to me. I hit it twice and cough a little. Give it to Christo and he takes it better than I did. After passing it around for a bit, it's just a roach, so Samuel supermaned it and we sat around and chilled out. Check my phone and it's already 6. Told my friends and they were as shocked as I was. It had only felt like minutes since we had gotten everything set up at 4:30. Decide to rip into the other 2 blunts. Once we're done with them, get back to chilling out. Christo says he has to piss and walks over to the trees. Guys, Christo says with a weary voice. We look into his general. Guys, he exclaims. We rush over to him to see what's up. The bastard flings around with his dick out and pisses on us. The bastard. Pissed. On. Us. As a joke, this beaner literally pissed on us. We were pissed on, and we were pissed. We tackle him to the ground and wrestled him. It was nothing malicious though. He was laughing the whole time and kept calling himself R. Kelly. We get back over to the campsite and light a fire as it's beginning to get dark. Me, Dylan and Samuel take our piss-covered shirts off and throw them at Christo. He, being the Einstein that he is, throws them in the fire. Dylan annoyingly states, "Christo, you fucking idiot. Now the whole place is gonna smell like piss." "Here," Christo says as he takes off his shirt and throws it into the fire. We all laughed at how dumb Christo was. After fucking around a bit more, once we sober up we get tired. It was definitely after 11 p.m. once we decided to go into the tents to sleep. Samuel and Christo call one tent, so I'm stuck in the other. The one with Dylan. Surprisingly enough, it gets hot in a small tent with a fat guy like Dylan. Decide to take my sleeping bag and lay beside one of the logs around our campfire. I remember before dozing off to sleep hearing Christo and Samuel tell some shitty jokes but laughing to them nonetheless. This is when the worst, most terrifying event in my life happened. Of the years I spent in Afghanistan dodging mud slime bullets and watching my friends die by my side, nothing I have ever experienced or Lord willing will experience, have, or will ever compare to what happened next. I'm literally shaking typing this because of how terrifying redawning upon this awful memory is. I wake up with my head horizontal, sideways, so all I can see is the log beside me. Check my phone, I watch the time switch over from 2:31 to 2:32 a.m. Look up and move my torso upwards with my elbows, so my head is facing just above the log. To my surprise, I see a Christo with his mouth gaped open looking up and over at something. Also see Samuel sitting on a log with his mouth open too, looking in the same direction. "What's going on?" I say, rubbing my eyes. My question was replied to with a cold silence. I annoyingly get up to look in the direction they were looking at. This was what I can only describe as an evil confusion. I felt absolutely shocked whenever I saw what this fucking thing was. The top of this organism was a crude sphere, which I am guessing was its head, though it could have been its torso. Its head was just below the canopy of the forest. On what I'm saying is its head, I couldn't see any orifice. Directly below what I'm loosely calling its head was its legs. Yes, if the top of this creature was its head, then its head was attached to its legs. It had 3 legs, 2 in the front, 1 trailing behind. As it walked, this monster's legs stayed notably and oddly straight, but did bend like a knee would. Its skin is the hardest part to explain. What I can best offer is that its skin was gray and tarp-like. Like plastic but not like plastic. It's so hard to explain. It was similar to what you would see on an elephant, or a seal I guess. It looked like if you scratched it, it would make a noise like a fucking knife to a blackboard. This abomination was walking not necessarily at us but to our 8 o'clock position. Hear a very deep and loud, what I'm going to call humming. It was fucking loud and deep. It made the ground vibrate. I knew it was coming from this creature, but it was so loud it was almost as if it was coming from the sky. After what I'm liberally calling 2 steps to our 8 o'clock position, I hear a zipper as Dylan opens the tent he was in and steps out. He walks to directly beside me and a still sitting Samuel. His mouth is wide open as well. Given our location and how big this fucking monster was, we've come to call it the Kentucky Colossus. The Colossus was now probably 35 or 40 feet away from us. I still can't tell how much land this thing was clearing with each step. 4. Full-grown, well over 20-year-old men just stand, sit in shock and watch as this monster inches, or yards, towards us. We could tell that if it didn't change its walking trajectory it wouldn't touch us or our camping tents, or fire. It walks as close as it ever was to us. About 10 feet away from Christo, who had absolutely dwarfed. I can't tell if it noticed us or not. The fucker just walked. For its size, the Colossus' footsteps were a lot quieter than would expect. Especially compared to the humming noise it made. As it takes another step forward, Christo kept staring at it. It was almost as if we couldn't look away from it, not that I was making an effort to look away from it. Me and the boys were dead set on looking at this thing. After more steps away from our direction, Christo turns and looks at us. He started crying. I started crying. I don't know if it was confusion or anxiety or what, but soon, Samuel started crying too. Somehow Dylan kept his cool and did as much as he could to console us. Of course he was as petrified as we were, but he didn't cry at all. I remember in between the crying asking, "What the hell was that thing?" I obviously didn't get a coherable response. We sat there huddled around and hugged each other. None of us went back to sleep. After we had settled down, I decided to ask Christo and Samuel, "Did you two not sleep at all last night?" "Huh? Why?" Samuel responds. I go on. "When I had woken up I saw you two awake. When you were star." "Oh," Christo let out. "No, I had woken up and wanted to smoke, so I grabbed a pack of cigarettes out of Samuel's pants, and it woke him up." "Oh okay, but when did you two see it?" I respond. Christo continues, "That's what I was getting to, asswipe. Since I got caught, I asked Samuel if I could smoke and if he wanted to join me. He said yes to both. He lit his and I handed me one. I told him I was gonna go check on you. I unzipped the tent flag and went out. I was fidgeting with a cigarette and lighter, and once I got it lit, I hit it and looked up." He froze up. "That's when I saw it." He was beginning to get a bit choked up. "I went to yell out Samuel's name, but it came out as a whimper. Regardless, he heard me and asked, 'What?' He looks over at Samuel. Samuel says, 'I asked what about 2 more times before I went out of the tent to see Christo standing still, looking off into the distance. I looked up at him and started walking forward. I had my eyes focused on his head and asked what he wanted. By the time I was beside him I looked away in the direction that his head was. Far off in the distance I saw it." "How far?" asked Dylan. "Probably several hundred feet," Samuel replied. I collapsed and hit my ass on the log. He paused for a moment. "I went to get you but I couldn't. It was the most petrifying thing I had ever felt. It wasn't like I was paralyzed, I was just choosing not to move. It was weird." Christo put his hand on Samuel's shoulder and continues for him. "You woke up eventually, and then once that humming started, Dylan woke up. We mostly sat around huddled in silence, constantly looking over our shoulder. We hadn't really spoke too much about it while we were huddled with each other by the camp. It was mainly just pep talking like, 'We gonna fucking make it through the night,' or something like, 'If it comes back we're not freezing up. We're gonna grab a flashlight and run down the trail.' At around late 4, early 5 the sun began to rise. It was the most beautiful thing we had ever seen. We unassembled the 2 small tents and grabbed the coolers and set off down the trail. A little bit of chit-chat down the trail, but mostly silent. For some reason while we were walking down the trail, we were afraid once we reached the beginning, Christo's truck wouldn't be there. Eventually we get there and lo and behold Christo's truck is there. We throw everything into the truck bed, including Dylan, and set off, down the road. But in the truck I think all of us were waiting for someone to bring it up. Finally, after about 15 minutes into the ride, Dylan poked his head in through the rear window and said, "So we all definitely saw the same thing, right?" We were silent for a second, but Christo said, "Y'all saw a giant gray 3-legged creature?" Samuel and I said yes. "We all heard that loud deep humming noise it made?" I asked. The other 3 said yes. I began to ask, "Should we tell any of "No," Christo said in a very matter-of-fact manner. "That'd be a good way to get us all locked up in a nut house." Dylan agreed with him and Samuel remained silent. After more silence, Christo continued, "We don't tell anyone. No other friends, no family, no girls or hookups. This stays between us." Christo looked at us. "We have to be clear on this, okay guys?" We agreed. For the car ride and a bit after, Christo acted really odd. When we got to a gas station, Christo went in to fill up his truck. When he got back out, another Mexican walked up to him and complained about the Confederate flag he had on his truck bed. I didn't know we had white supremacists. You know they hate people like you and me, so why are you waving their flag? Usually Christo would have clowned on him or pushed him and told him to fuck off. Christo just dead stared at the guy and said, "Go." It was really creepy. He got back in his truck and drove us all to my house. All of us stayed at my place over the weekend and played video or just fucked around. It got brought up a few more times, but the whole time we were at my house, there was a really awkward vibe. Every time I think of the Colossus, it gives me cold chills. I wanted to ask around to friends and co-workers, but I'm going to stay loyal to that oath we took. From what I know, none of the others guys have brought it up to anyone else. So I'm taking it here. Have any of you here ever seen or heard anything of what I'm talking about? I look up all the details, but I get nothing. Any like local folklore or just stories that sounds anything like what I witnessed? Or if you've seen what I'm talking about, please tell me your experience or even a friend's experience. Any other forums or places you all could report me to? I'll answer any questions. We just need to find this shit out.